display advertising. I'm just going to give all of the panelists a chance to introduce themselves, talk a bit about their business, and spend a minute on just talk about how they're adding value to the technology stack, the new media innovations, and what they're doing with the display business from their own perspective. So let's start with Rahul from Google.
Thank you, Karan. So I'm Rahul. I lead the ad exchange buyer-side relationships for Southeast Asia, India, and Korea. Pretty much looking at, from an exchange perspective, bringing together the publishers as well as the buyers to transact, whether it is display advertising, mobile advertising, or video advertising. Pretty much an evangelist of programmatic in the region, and looking forward to the discussion today and the questions from all of you.
Thanks, Karan. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Mahesh. I lead Sociomantic in India. We're one of the leading programmatic media buying and remarketing companies in the world. We've now set up office in India about 11 months ago, and are working with every leading advertiser in the country. Looking forward to the discussion today.
Hi, everybody. My name is Arun. I'm a VP of Sales at AppNexus. I manage account management globally for one of our biggest segments. For those of you who don't know AppNexus, it's a company which basically one of the pure play technology firms. It's basically to power advertising that powers internet. So we will, go into more detail, but anything about it.
Thanks, Arun. Good afternoon. My name is Gautam Sinha, and I'm representing Times Internet and the publisher side, or the publisher point of view in this forum. Times Internet Limited has about 22 brands, 22 digital brands, has access to about 59 million uniques in a month, about 2 billion page views in a month, and about 80 billion ad impressions in a month. Without ad tech, we would not have been able to manage it. So I would love to share what we have done today. And fortunately, most of the panelists have built tools which have been valuable to us, and we have incorporated it in the solutions that we have put together.
Thanks, Gautam. So speaking of ad tech, right? Innovation, new technologies, new methodologies. Let's talk about display advertising, the way it's evolved. In the RTB space, how India is playing a role. What exactly is India doing in RTB? What other organizations, from a publisher's perspective, from a technology perspective, from your own, from DSPs. Now, what exactly do these terms mean? Like, what is RTB when we speak of RTB? What is DSP? What are these terms that are flying around, and how are they fitting into the stack between the advertiser and the publisher, and taking that forward into how programmatic as a whole is this next innovation on how display advertising can be bought, across different channels. Start with Rahul.
Definitely, I think it's important to set the ground on the different terms, because we will be throwing out a lot of terms which will also evolve with time, so we come up with new jargons all the time. So to begin with, RTB, if I look at it, just expanding the abbreviation, it is real-time bidding. What does it mean for an advertiser? It basically means that you are able to value each impression on a real-time basis. Literally, real-time is 100 milliseconds, and being able to put the right price that you value that impression for. So that's the first piece. There are a couple of other terms around programmatic, which is a broader envelope, looking at not just RTB, but the whole way of transacting advertising between publishers as well as the buyers, using automated tools in a simple and transparent manner. So I think when I think of programmatic and RTB, I think of programmatic as the overarching envelope, which has different technology components, all geared towards one simple objective. How do we make the display, mobile, video, any of these advertising to be transacted in a much more simple, transparent, and effective manner? I'll leave for Mahesh to continue.
So I'll talk a little bit about what a DSP is, because that's what we are. So in simple parlance, a DSP is a demand-side platform. We work on behalf of the advertiser and help them reach the right users at the right point of time at the right price. So Rahul spoke about arriving at the true value of the impressions. That's exactly what our platform does. To be able to target the right user with the right product offering at the right price.
So maybe I'll ask with a question, like, how many of you heard different definitions of what programmatic means? Just a show of hands. We had more than one definition what programmatic means. Well, I for one, every place I go, I have different definitions of what programmatic is and different interpretations. The way we look at it from AppNexus is like anything that automates kind of the media exchange between the publisher to the advertiser is programmatic. There are different cuts at it, depending on what's transacted, how it's transacted. It starts with anything from, like, say, you have the programmatic guarantee. Anything that's first look, you can actually clearly guarantee to the advertiser, you are going to get this audience and this many impressions, and that's programmatic guaranteed. The next one is like anything of a programmatic direct or, the deal IDs. You heard the words tossed around a lot. So you are basically transacting, and it says like, okay, I'm going to sell you at this price and this type of inventory, but there's no guarantee. And RTB is just the next piece of it, where anybody who has leverage on any kind of a data, whether it's contextual, whether it's anything behavioral, or any kind of CRM data, now you can actually look at the impressions and you can clearly cherry pick the ones that you want based on your advertiser goals. So RTD provides that. All this come under the programmatic bucket, and we try to power all of them. So there are a lot of different alphabet soups as well. I think you talked about the DSPs. Maybe you can add to the SSP side of things.
Sure. I think there's a lot discussed on RTB. I'll just add one thing to it, to the original definition, that the commerce mode is auction. It's a unit impression which is bought, but the buy-sell mode is auction. So best price wins in that particular auction. Having said that, we don't generally get into the RTBs in the domestic market, and we have been very clear that we use RTBs only in the international market. And I will probably at some point in time define why we do that.
So just to take off from where you defined programmatic really well, Arun. As far as overarching all the elements within that, when we speak of the look at the impression, the real time, while the advertisers buying that impression, layering it with the targeting capabilities. So what does the stack look like? I mean, when we look at a brand marketer, when they have to approach an organization that's going to use and leverage technology, what do they look at? I mean, like, what are the elements they need to consider when they want to completely take advantage of RTB in the programmatic business and then reach the publisher on the other side, where you have the SSP sitting on that side, who's probably aggregating all this from the publishers, the exchanges there. So what could you just give us some idea of what marketers should actually look at, and then we can take a publisher's perspective of what a publisher should expect in that sense.
Sure. When you talk to marketers, like especially like ones who are sophisticated, because the level of sophistication varies by geography. But I'm just giving an example of some of the most advanced marketers, what they think about. Take for example, at the top of the bracket is the likes of, let's say, P&G. They do a campaign called Thank You Mom. I don't know how many of you have seen the advertisement. Brilliant advertisement. So during Olympics, they was running that, and these are specialized campaigns, and they have very specific needs, and it's like orchestrated globally. It's like, it's hard to execute unless they have a technology partner who has the scale and the ability to create bespoke either ad units, either the target audience and all that stuff. So that's at the top end of the spectrum. Is less technology, but more managed services. So that's one piece of it. Then if you talk to marketers, a lot of them is more thinking about like just awareness. If you look at the marketing funnel, starting from awareness, consideration, and all that stuff. So they are looking for exposure. So these are the direct deals, and they want a programmatic way to execute it. When I say direct deals, like they want in the front page of Times of India or any of the premium site, and this is exactly they want, and they basically need a stack which can execute whatever is basically done through a conversation between the salespeople and so. But if you go to the next spectrum, what marketers want is, like, say, there is a whole slew of direct response. And as you know, direct response is becoming bigger and bigger. And in mobile, it's all direct response. There's no branding. And so they are particularly interested in an advertising stack or an ad tech stack, the ability to execute all the data they can bring to the table. So you could put them all together. Say, I want to know what kind of website, the contextual. I want to know who I'm targeting. Is it like, say, soccer moms in some state? Or I want to be able to target, not target clients who are already, let's say if Jet Airways is running a campaign, they don't want to be, they want to be targeting only the people they recently looked for something, any kind of search or intent data, and not somebody who is like, not looking at it. So then there is a whole slew of marketers. What they care about is like brand safety. Or so an example I would give is recently there was a I think a player in the US where they had he made some racial comments or something like that. So P&G says, like, if there is any mention about this player, I don't want my advertisement there. So they go to the granular level of at a page level, saying if there is a mention of this name, I don't want this advertisement to be. So they want to be able to have a really brand safe environment. I'm just giving in a contextual sense, but it can also go to another sense of like anything that has sites that are not unsavory for the brand image, anything like sometimes toolbar, sometimes it's like could be plain vanilla pirated websites or pornography, and things like that. They're very, very particular about, and your ad tech has to be able to deliver that and give them a 100% guarantee that this will be protected at all times.
So, from a publisher's perspective, Gautam, there's a lot of control that technology is taking on. Optimization techniques, creatives. There's so much that technology is powering marketers with, the data sets, segments, audience targeting. What should publishers look at? I mean, from a publisher's perspective, there's there's all this tech. There's a lot more control that's sort of going away to technology. Are there any innovations from the publisher's side? Are there any process changes? Are there any modular, functional differences of how the selling is happening to these advertisers and marketers now?
Sure. First, there has been phenomenal development in ad technology over the last 5-6 years. There are a host of options one can choose. Close to 1,000 companies and superior products that one can choose. We started this journey about 2 years ago in terms of identifying partners and building out our stack or the complete solution around it. When we started from one point, is how do we go detailed into audience and the targeting around audience. And then it started building on various components. I'd like to talk about it in different details. So the complete ad stack that we have today has about 10 partners that we have built into the ad suite. 60% of the solutions is through partners. 40% is something we have built. The glue has come from us. The campaign optimization has come from us. But then every piece has been thought out to be plugged into a place so we can offer the best services to our customers, which is the advertisers in this case. We started with audience. When we looked at audience, we had 3 things we wanted to track. We wanted to track demo. We wanted to track behavior. We wanted to track intent. So as I said, we have 22 brands. And about 2 years ago, we made sure that any click in the enterprise, which is Times Internet Limited, gets tracked. Any login has a consistent identity management across all the properties. So as a company, we started generating tons of data, which led to a host of demographic data, which is first-party data, both in terms of demographic and behavior. We have certain commerce sites like shopping. We have classified sites like Time Jobs, Magic Bricks. which allowed us to give us, more intent data. Having the ability to put that together and then create audience buckets. So today we are ready to have predefined 600 audience buckets that we are exposing for a buyer to buy from us, through the technology partners that we have. There are lots of custom audience buckets which anyone can define across the 59 million uniques that we have. So if you want action junkie or a woman of a certain age between 16 and 25, I think you have the ability to define, come and pick and choose, and that's what we can target. If you look at the quantum of inventory that we have, and I'm using inventory slightly loosely, it's about 80 billion impressions in a month. There's no way in hell you can manage that without technology. So even to give the value, do a continuous campaign optimization. And when I say continuous campaign optimization, you're looking at dynamic creatives, you're looking at messages, you're looking at ad spots, you're looking at ATF, BTF, you're looking at time of day, you're looking at geography, and trying to figure out what works at what best part, what part of the day, and trying to monitor that on a continuous basis to figure out what campaign you can optimize and at what level. If you take this today, we have some customers will announce today later, I think at about 5 o'clock, where we have done continuous campaign optimization across all these parameters in real time with the ad ops to increase the CTR up to 500%. But it is a continuous process, and it's not a very simple process, and not one solution solves for it. So you have looked at best of the breed. I think we have Google, we have Affinity, we have AppNexus, we are working with, we have Rubicon, and a host of technology we are building with. We are currently working on a lot of technology which has not proved itself, but we are hoping that in the next 6 to 9 months, we can mature that and bring it to the market. But overall, I think it is fairly complex. Because of its complexity, it also becomes exciting, in terms of what all you can do, in terms of delivering value to the advertiser, in terms of, the publisher supply that you have.
Sure. So there's a lot of data that I'm hearing, like there's audiences, there's data, because we're talking about, bidding for an impression. There's a lot of parameters and attributes that, marketers need to look at because they want to reach those users, right? Speaking of that, Mahesh, is there a perspective from a DSP, that how is data leveraged from a platform, how marketers using that? What is it that, what does that data really mean? What is the data term? What are varieties of data? How deep can that go from a targeting perspective? And, how is this actually aggregated and enriched for a marketer when they want to reach those audiences?
Let me actually give you an example. Let me kind of try and lucidify and simplify this entire maze that data is. And big data is a word that people throw around a lot. Think of a simple user experience. Karan visits Flipkart. Karan looks for, you're looking to buy a USB probably a USB hard drive. You've looked at 4 different options, 4 different brand options. You probably spent about 7 minutes on the site, and then you carted a product, but then you decided to leave. At that, when you leave, and then maybe a couple of hours later, you're spotted on Times of India or on Facebook. Firstly, like Rahul said, we've got about 100 milliseconds to decide, A, do we want to target you as a user at that point of time? Does Flipkart want to target you as a user? A, yes, check. B, if they do want to target you, what's the real value of you as a user? So are you an existing customer or a new customer for Flipkart? If you're an existing customer, we're able to also see, hey, are you a segment A customer for Flipkart? You've bought 6 times in the last 12 months, which means that the probability of you buying on Flipkart is significantly high, which means that when you're on Times of India, we definitely want to show you that ad. we definitely want to show you the ad because the probability of you coming back and buying is significantly higher. All of that decisioning has to happen within 100 milliseconds. That coupled with a dynamic creative, which is related to the product that you showed interest in before, is the heart of RTB and programmatic combined with retargeting. So, as you can see, there's a fair amount of depth of data that goes in here. So there's layers of first-party data, which is the time spent on the site, your click stream, your click analysis. And then there is supplementary data points like your CRM segments, what's your buying history, what's your average ticket size. All of that data can be layered on top at that point of time when you actually decide to display an ad to a specific user and then get him back in and get him to transact. So, like I mentioned earlier, people speak a lot about big data. Big data is one component of what we crunch every moment. At every point of time, we're crunching terabytes and terabytes of data and then arriving at decisioning and arriving at the true value of the user's impression. And which is the reason why we also speak about bid volatility. The real value of you as a user for Flipkart is significantly higher because the potential or the probability of you buying is significantly higher, which is the reason why we probably bid significantly higher for you or your user impression on Times of India 2 hours later from the time you dropped off. It's different at different points of time. So your value just 2 hours after you dropped off Flipkart when you spot on Times of India is significantly different from your value, your user impression value maybe 3 days later when you're on another publisher site. So all of these data points are actually crunched at every point of time, and all of these data points are actually used in arriving at the true value of the user's impression.
So who better than Google sitting on a lot of data, right? Without giving too much out, Rahul, could you give us a perspective in terms of, how and what innovative stuff is Google doing in terms of, this entire tech stack between a marketer and a publisher when they're using, data sets, audiences, audience targeting, different targeting capabilities, within the entire ecosystem of Google itself?
So firstly, just building on the thought that Mahesh started, I mean, when you're looking at the customer and the customer that is relevant for you, I think it actually starts from you as an organization. I mean, what is the data that you have? Are you organizing that data enough? And then are you able to plug in the right technology stack to be able to use that data, right? Because the most powerful data, and we realize that with every single advertiser that we work with, is the customer data that you have in your organization. Whether it is about the past purchase behavior, whether it is about how many times a person visited your website. So you actually know something about that user. And the interesting thing that we can do in the online space versus any of the offline technologies is that you're no longer looking at the consumer with saying that this is the age and gender and therefore I need to either put a value of $10 or $2 on this person. I mean, you're looking at probably a few hundred parameters and then coming up with a value. And this value can be only precisely estimated based on you organizing that data, using a tech stack which enables that data to be used, because if the data is sitting on your servers or machines which is not directly linked to your marketing solution, then that data is not really getting utilized. So I think the starting point we always see is getting to that point in the organization where you realize what data you have, collect the data, bring it onto a technology stack, and then you start to look at, can I still acquire data from other places which could be relevant for me? So would the data from Times Internet, if I had access to, and I'm a different advertiser, be valuable for me to target the audience better? So how could you use data, which we pretty much refer as third-party data, and start to improve the targeting capability that you have? From the Google perspective, I mean, we definitely play more of a technology central role. As Exchange, we enable any of the DSPs to be able to bring in the data that that they are getting from the customer, and be able to utilize that data to reach out to the audience. So we are making that process as smooth as possible. So as long as you get the data realized, organized, put onto one of the technology stack, whether it is AppNexus, Sociomantic, or the Google DSP, you should be able to utilize that data on an exchange-based mechanism to buy effectively.
At the heart of it, we are actually reaching out to a user, and from where the user is to who the user is. Now, it's also important that it goes with where, because users now not only on one screen, he's moving to other devices. You're not always on your PC. You've got the tablets, you've got smartphones, and so on and so forth. So, how is technology adapting to that? I mean, from each of you guys, is there a perspective as far as this tech stack extending its entire, advantages of whatever it can do to getting and showing the same ad to the user in similar fashion, or even better on those screens as well?
Actually, let me just take the same example further. You looked, you went to Flipkart, you looked for USB hard drives, and you left. Your user experience is not just going to be with Flipkart's desktop website. Your next interaction, imagine this, if we could target you later in the day when you're playing Candy Crush, right, on your phone, and the ad that you see is for the same product that you had shown interest in earlier, which is the USB hard drives from WD with a 10% discount off. You click on the ad, and it activates the Flipkart app on your phone and deep links you straight into the WD hard drive page where you can buy the product.
Scary at the same time.
That's where technology can take you today, because we now are able to target users across devices and then get him to link straight back into that specific product that he'd shown interest in earlier.
It makes the experience more seamless. I mean,
exactly.
It just gets him closer to the point of sale.
I mean, extremely relevant question for those of you who were there at Karan's keynote. He talked about some of the stats which are staggering for India, right? 4 million users added on smartphone every month, and if you sit down, probably looking at stats 2015, we are looking at more than 300 to 400 million internet users in India. So I think I would want to split the question in two parts. One is, have you already started to think on mobile? The second part is, are you thinking mobile first? Because for those of you, particularly who are designing websites or building technology on top of it, do you build technology firstly for desktop and then try to adapt that technology for mobile, or you start with mobile and say then, maybe I don't care about desktop, or I'll figure out desktop later, right? So that's one part of the question. It is very specific to your business, but worth challenging yourself when you start on that journey. The second portion of this question is that I know the user is going to use multiple screens. Each of these multi-screens not only relate to different consumer behavior, but it could relate to different time of the day, different setup that he's exposed to. So understanding consumer behavior, when does he use desktop, when does he use mobile, when does he use tablet, what context is he using each of those devices, and this is an extremely hard problem. This is not an easy problem, mapping out the consumer behavior and then understanding whether if he saw Flipkart in the morning, in the case Mahesh was talking about, next time when he sees it on an evening, probably driving back to his home, he is more likely to buy that device, right? I mean, that is the kind of consumer behavior experience that you're trying to understand at this point. The technology is getting there. I don't think all the pieces are as streamlined as ideally we would like to. Having said that, I mean, there are a couple of innovations that have happened, a few of them that I want to just highlight. One is, as a mobile ecosystem, both Android and iOS took a strong step towards coming up with solutions where you can start to identify users in a pretty safe way as compared to trying to do fingerprinting and other terms that you may have heard. So I think that has evolved the ecosystem quite significantly in being able to identify consumers properly and being able to reach out as an advertiser, not spamming them with banner ads when they're playing their favorite games. So, so I think start living the thought, challenge yourself, what do you want to do first? Mobile first or not? If not, why? Second is, are you starting to understand the components that are already available and starting to map out the consumer journey? If you're going on that path, the technology is going to catch up and is going to deliver that promise of cross device.
That's a great perspective. I think before we end for questions, one important innovation that you would like to see, each one of you, in the display ecosystem. Let's start with Gautam.
I think, no. So let me talk of another stack, technology stack, which is Rocket Fuel, which is largely about campaign optimization. And it's very exciting because it brings a lot of these things together in real time to optimize your campaigns. I would like to see that happen. Actually, let me take a step back and make it relevant to the Indian ecosystem. Indian ecosystem, in terms of the buyer's mind, still is getting used to what audience means, what campaign optimization means, what performance means, and they are trying to move from display towards performance gradually. Certain advertisers have already moved, but certain are still taking that step. And I went to multiple sales call, and one of the sales call, when we tried to sell audience, the advertiser and the brand wanted to say, I only want my ad to show up when someone is coming through the APAC, which was a proxy of audience, but not deterministically identifying the audience that you want to go. So there were many such examples where the advertiser and the agencies would look at proxies to audience in the past. What I wanted to say is now the audience is more deterministic and the buckets are across all the properties, not just with us but with multiple publishers. So as audience and targeting becomes more relevant, and I think this is the year where they will see scale, which is very exciting to me to see it happen.
I'll go a little futuristic. If you really think about what powers all of us and pays our bills is the money that flows from advertisers to publishers, right? And if you look at advertising was always kind of a black magic. And there is a famous saying which says, how effective was your advertising? It's like 50% was effective, but we don't know which 50%, right? Nobody knows. Nobody really knows. And there is always this different studies and other stuff which kind of tries to fill that gap. But I think right now we have a very, very interesting thing emerging, the digital ecosystem and the automation of it, and your ability to actually attribute and identify if, not in the near future, but I'm talking maybe 3 to 4 years, if you could put together a system which can attribute every bit of advertising spent from, okay, this was the first time when somebody saw it, and this is the second time they saw it in this screen, and they transferred, and if you can map all the hops and say, this is how your advertising was effective, that's going to funnel a lot more money from traditional media to what we are seeing in digital, and it's going to be immense and huge. And we have a lot of the pieces that are emerging together, but nobody has been able to stitch that all together to tell a story, because we still go with the world of last click attribution. Giving the credit to the last impression that was seen is really stupid. Really think about it. And because there are so many things that was hitting on and on and on, but no credit to any of them. So that's, to me, is the day that's solved, or even if it's nearly solved, somebody can tell a story, we're going to make a lot of money.
So, firstly, great point. Love that. Google became Google because search is what search is, which is, you cannot stop search advertising, right? I mean, search is no longer an advertising medium, it is a business channel for most marketers globally. I think with programmatic, RTP and programmatic, we're now searchifying display advertising. So it is now veering from, like you're saying, ad dollars spent without knowing what's going on, to a business channel which will keep delivering. In terms of what I'd like to see, I don't think it's too far away, but I'd love to see visually the impact of cross-device marketing being depicted to marketers, which means that today, for example, we talk about it a lot. We talk about consumer experiences across devices and the fact that the advertisers should be across devices. I think the largest companies in the world, Google, Facebook, Sociomantic, whoever, is trying to solve this problem for marketers, and we definitely would love to make sure that advertisers see the value of recognizing the users across those devices and the fact that they manage to drive a sale by recognizing the users across those devices. I think that's probably when marketers would really start pumping up the mobile and the wireless devices, their focus on marketing on mobile devices.
I think a lot of great points already, so I have to come up with a new one. So
you have Google Glass. You have Google Glass.
Okay, so I'm not supposed to talk about it. I can talk about Sociomantic Glass. Okay, so I think the perspective normally, from a Google perspective, we take consumer experience as an extremely important portion before we look at advertising. So I think one aspect is looking at consumer experience in line with advertising. We can't continue to think of purely from advertiser perspective. I'm going to push more advertisement to the guy. I mean, that cannot be the end goal, because at some point the person will just have the fatigue and will probably start to hate the brand. For me, the perfect world, and I continue to have this ideology that there is a holy grail of advertising where you have a perfect ad which is created based on identifying the right audience, selecting the right device, finding the right context that the person may be using that device, and then coming up with a proper message related to the brand as well as what the consumer may be willing to listen at that point, and delivering it to the customer. And this all needs to happen in real time, right? Because all of these pieces are moving and changing all the time. And when I think of it, I don't think of it limiting to the online world. I start to think of what can we do it, not just across online, but start to think of TV programmatic. I mean, TV has been there with the same ad on the TV channel delivered to all the people watching that channel, which kind of doesn't make sense. I mean, can you think of one display ad which you will deliver to every online person who comes to your website? I mean, that doesn't make sense. So I think we need to think of this not just across online, which I believe clearly has led the technology evolution and built a lot of tools around it, but start to think of it as encompassing all forms of advertising.
It's a great way to end the session. We're open for questions. Please introduce yourself, and if you're directing the question to someone.
Hello, I'm Prasoot from Tawan Technologies. So my question was that how the content strategy fits into the whole piece, because we are talking about consumer behavior, but at the same time the other aspect of seller where he defines that where he or whom he want to sell, and how we will narrowing down to the particular target or subject and then make the deal. So whether you see the content strategy and coming out with the right strategy is also a fitting piece into this, or it's all about marketers and the end consumers?
Gautam?
So I'll talk with some examples that we have done. We have had some advertisers who came to us that our ad should only show if the sentiment of the article is positive. You know, and this was very important. So one of the technologies that we built is not just textual content of the search, but what is the sentiment of the article. So if it's a robbery, rape, whatever, those are filtered away from the advertiser's list. And those are the things that that advertiser gets to pick and choose. So it's part of another dimension of targeting that we have introduced. And these are some of the things we are going to talk later in the day as to what can enable advertisers to target with a lot more granularity than we have done before.
Any more questions at the back?
Hi, this is Madhumita from Google. So my question is basically related around future of programmatic. This question is not for Rahul. So, India is actually a huge market for Facebook, and you made a really relevant point around attribution, how we can basically attribute revenue leads coming from different sources like emails, referrals, social, display, and search. So how do you see social fitting into this whole picture of programmatic? And if you know of any use case scenarios, can you give me an example?
Arun? Yes, Mahesh.
So, think about it this way. If you think about Facebook as just another publisher, FBX is just another SSP, right? You got to flip your angle and think about, hey, where is the user going, right? At the end of the day, it's just another publisher, right? It could be Times of India, it could be Facebook. We think about marketing to that specific user at that point of time. Now, if he's on Facebook at that point of time, you want to try and target him at that point of time with the right product there. But if he's on Times of India at that point of time, you want to try and target him with the right product there at that point of time. The only added advantage with a property like Facebook is the social element that it's got as well. So additionally, the fact that 1,000 of his friends just got to know that Karan bought the USB hard drive from Flipkart, right?
I have to buy this one. I have to buy it now.
So, but the way we think about it otherwise is, it is just another publisher. In fact, one of the things that I keep telling advertisers is, Google AdX has got probably 50,000 plus publishers or 100,000 plus publishers globally, a few million publishers. I mean, in India, 50,000 to 100,000 publishers in India probably. For FBX as an SSP, there's Facebook, which is one large publisher. But if you flip the thought and think from a marketer's point of view, it's all about the user, right? So Facebook is just another publisher where you can target the user and then try and drive your conversions.
But don't you think it's going to be a good platform when we're trying to select or, trying to select the right targeting in terms of the customer? Because with the information that we share on our social networks, it's actually easy to kind of get that kind of data that we're looking for. So just a thought.
I think I was just going to say that. I think that's the most, to me, the most important point in social network. It's all UGC, like user-generated content. Like you are saying yourself, like, wow, that movie is awesome. Like I love this song. Then automatically you give so much information about yourself. And both there is an experiment, not an experiment. I think some of the tests that's happening in US is like when people start tweeting while they're, because what they do is like when they watch the TV shows, they are tweeting at the same time. And now they are basically trying to target an ad to them because it's easy for us to identify the device in a household. For instance, because they all go through the same IP, whether you're using an iPad or your laptop, and the behavioral trend there is watching TV, tweeting, and at the same time shopping something for an iPad. It makes like a perfect, triangulation. And that's super powerful, and that's right now only in social media. And the other biggest thing is like what Facebook is now taking over the world almost, right? Like so, pretty much all the traffic is like Facebook, and so there's a huge chunk. So you can't ignore that. So those two things, I'd say, differentiate.
Right, we have time for one more question.
Yeah. Hi, this is Santosh from Logics of Digital. I have 2-3 questions. Hope you bear me. First thing is, what is the future of sales of platform in DSP or RTB? The next thing is, so it's really for RTB. Do we have enough data in terms of India as a geo for behavioral targeting? And third one is the, below the fold inventory. Is it really, waste of money? That's it.
I think you can take the first two together. Yeah.
So, yeah, absolutely. So, in terms of data, the first question, one of the questions that you had was about, do we have enough data in India? I think Rahul mentioned it earlier in this conversation. Advertisers always sit on reams and reams of data. The trick is to make sure that their tech stack is built in such a way that that data, the CRM data that they're sitting on, which is reams and reams of data, can be used for real-time marketing. Right? it's actually very true. To the point that he made, I've come across this situation about 4 times, I think, in the last, 11 months that we've been here. Where, and some of them are transactional businesses, online transactional businesses, but they still can't get their tech stack to layer on and help us refine our campaigns better. So we've had to wait till they could actually build that bridge, and then we could start using that data. I mean, for a second, just step out and think about just another word. It's a telecom, for example. Your leading telecom carriers in India and across the world sit on reams and reams of data. They know about when did you last top up, what's your average top up pattern, if you're a prepaid customer, or if you're a postpaid customer, what's your average invoice amount, when do you last travel internationally, do you travel internationally every 6 months? Imagine if you could use all of this data and then start targeting the right users at the right point of time. I know that Rahul's going to travel to Singapore in the month of April. Right? Imagine if I could pitch the international roaming pack to him at this point of time. And that's the kind of data that we can actually use. We for example, Sociomantic, we've got a product called Streaming CRM for Travel, which is specifically built for the online travel industry. Again, there's a lot of price volatility in the travel world. I mean, you look for a ticket price, you look for the price of a ticket in the morning, and by the evening, it's probably gone up significantly higher. So we actually stream data out from the advertiser site and use that data to update the users about the price at that point of time. So when the user is on Times of India or is on Facebook, he sees the ad with the price of the same Mumbai-Delhi ticket that he looked for on that specific date and the price at that point of time. So there's a fair amount of data that's available in India. I think the challenge is for the marketers to ensure that that data is built in such, the tech stack for the data is built in such a way that we can use that for a lot of real-time marketing activities.
ATF, BTF, I think. I'll just say from Times Internet perspective, we have a lot of first-party data as well, simply because we have 22 brands. And you have shopping, you have content, which is Times of India, Economic Times, Bharat Times, Maharashtra Times, a lot of specialty content and classified sites. Putting them all together, you get a lot of first-party data. But that's probably because we have the scale to collate everything. We add to that data with third-party data that we get, to be able to segment the audience much better and get much better clarity into what we want to target from there. I'll try to answer your second question now, and I'll go back to the example that I gave. In the sales call I had, the brand asked me only audiences from the APAC that he wanted to show for a luxury car. That was very prescriptive, and the way I want to define it is leave that definition, because once you know the audience, leave that definition to the provider, because they can optimize it for you. So if you wanted a HNI to be looking at an Audi or a Volvo car, leave that definition, because if you are too prescriptive that you want ATF, you want it here, you lose the value of optimization which a provider can do for you. Again, the second part of the answer is that all properties are different. So if even within my portfolio, a user in Times of India will behave differently from a user in Ghana.com. So a generic answer to whether it's a ATF or a BTF is best done with the ad ops team. Let them do the optimization, come back with the result. Hope that answers.
Your point? All right, thanks.